Did you know that the average person has upwards of 500 negative or evil thoughts each day? These thoughts could belong to anyone, a friendly neighbor, a trusted friend, or even a stranger you pass on the street. In this series, we explore these sinister minds told from their own chilling perspectives. Prepare yourself for a psychological journey into the depths of human depravity. If you have sinister confessions you'd like to make, send them to the email listed in the channel's description. We'll ensure your confessions stay anonymous, but don't get unnoticed. Remember, you never truly know what someone is thinking or what they might be capable of. Viewer discretion is advised.
I've always had a knack for fixing things. Ever since I was a kid, I could take apart anything mechanical and put it back together, better than it was before. My parents often found me in the garage, surrounded by broken toys, dismantled bicycles, and the odd lawnmower. They thought I was destined to be an engineer or a mechanic, and in a way, they were right. I own a small auto repair shop on the outskirts of town. Ricky's Reliable Repairs. But reliability is a boring virtue, isn't it? I learned early on that the real excitement comes not from fixing things, but from watching them break. The sound of metal crunching, the smell of burning rubber, the look of sheer panic on a driver's face when they realize their car is no longer in their control. It's intoxicating. I don't just repair cars, I orchestrate failures. It was a typical Tuesday when she walked in. Annie, a young woman with a bright smile and a clunky old Ford that had seen better days. She looked at me with those trusting eyes, completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath my calm exterior. "Can you fix it?" she asked, her voice hopeful. I smiled back, a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. "Of course, let me take a look." As I popped the hood and examined the engine, I could feel the familiar rush of adrenaline. This one was special. It needed more than just a tune-up. I could already envision the chaos I could unleash. "You'll need a new alternator, brakes, and some serious work on the suspension," I said, feigning concern. "It's going to be a bit of a project." "Oh no, really?" "That sounds expensive," she replied, frowning. "Don't worry," I said, my voice dripping with false sympathy. "I'll give you a good deal. You can trust my work." As I started, I decided to take my time, savoring each moment. I loosened the brake lines just enough to cause a failure, but not enough for her to notice. I tinkered with the wiring, making it look like I was busy fixing things when, in reality, I was orchestrating a disaster. Each turn of the wrench sent shivers of excitement down my spine. I imagined her driving home, blissfully unaware, when suddenly, failure. The thought of her panic as the brakes failed, as the steering became unresponsive, sent a thrill coursing through me. After a few hours, I had her Ford ready to go. I wiped my hands on a rag and turned to her, a grin plastered on my face. "All set. You're good to go." "Really? That was quick," she exclaimed, her smile beaming. "Just doing my job," I replied, suppressing my laughter. As she slid into the driver's seat, I felt a twinge of anticipation. "Drive safe, Annie," I called, my voice laced with mock sincerity. I watched her pull out of the lot, the tires squealing slightly as she accelerated down the road. I could almost hear the gears in her mind turning, thinking she could finally trust someone with her car. I waited. It wasn't long before I heard the distant sound of tires screeching, followed by a sickening thud. My heart raced as I rushed outside, pretending to be concerned. The scene was chaotic. Annie's car had collided with a lamppost, the front end crumpled like a soda can. She was out of the car, trembling, her face pale as she looked at the wreckage. "Oh my God! What happened?" she cried, her voice choked with fear. I approached slowly, feigning shock. "Annie, what did you do?" I don't know," she stammered, tears welling in her eyes. "The brakes they just stopped working." I put on my best concerned mechanic face. "That's odd. Let's take a look." We moved closer to the car, and I could see the way her hands shook, the way her breath quickened. I could almost taste her fear. "Frank, this isn't funny," she said, desperation creeping into her voice. "Oh, it's not a joke, Annie. This is just how things go sometimes," I replied, feigning innocence. "Cars have a mind of their own." Her eyes darted around as if searching for an escape. "I just got it fixed. How could this happen?" I shrugged, hiding my delight behind a mask of sympathy. "Sometimes things happen, you know. Cars can be unpredictable." As she stood there, trembling, I felt exhilarated. There was something almost poetic about the fear in her eyes, the realization that she had trusted the wrong person. "Maybe I should call someone," she said, pulling out her phone. "Oh, no need for that," I interrupted, my voice smooth and calm. "I'll take care of it. Just stay here. I'll be right back." I walked to my shop, my heart racing with excitement. I had her right where I wanted her. I returned with a toolkit, kneeling beside the car to check the damage. I could see the way her hands shook, and my heart raced with excitement. "Looks like you're going to need some serious work again," I said, my voice dripping with false concern. "But don't worry, I can fix it. Please, just help me," she begged, her voice breaking. I leaned closer, my eyes narrowing. "You should have thought about that before you trusted me with your car." Her face twisted in confusion, and I reveled in her terror. "What do you mean?" I stood up slowly, savoring the moment. "You see, Annie, fixing things is boring. Watching them break is where the real thrill lies. You were just a pawn in my game." Her eyes widened in realization, and I could see the color drain from her face as the truth sank in. You did this on purpose?" "Not just this," I said, my voice low and smooth. "Every car that comes through my shop is an opportunity to watch the world crumble around me. And you, my dear, are no exception." The reality of her situation hit her like a freight train. I could see the panic in her eyes as she stumbled back, her hands shaking. "You're sick. You're a monster." "Monster? No, I'm an artist," I corrected her, my voice dripping with arrogance. "An artist of breakdowns. Every failure is a masterpiece, a symphony of chaos that plays out on the streets." She turned to flee, but I stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Where do you think you're going? You can't escape this easily." Her breath quickened, and I could see the panic in her eyes. "Please, just let me go." "Not yet," I said, enjoying the power I held over her. "You need to understand the lesson here. Trust is a fragile thing, and once it's broken, it can never be repaired." I could see the tears streaming down her face, and my heart raced with excitement. "It's just the beginning, Annie. The beginning of a beautiful disaster." Just then, I heard the sound of sirens in the distance, and I felt a pang of disappointment. "Looks like your rescue has arrived," I said, stepping aside. As the police cars pulled up, I could see the flashing lights reflecting off the wreckage. Annie turned to them, her hope igniting like a match in the dark. But I knew the truth. This was only the beginning of her nightmare. "Goodbye, Annie," I called out, watching as she ran toward the officers, her cries echoing in the air. I felt exhilarated, my heart pounding with adrenaline. I had orchestrated the perfect breakdown, and I couldn't wait for my next masterpiece. As the lights faded into the distance, I returned to my shop, wiping my hands on my grease-stained apron. The thrill of the chase lingered in the air, and I felt alive, more alive than ever before. You see, this isn't just about cars, it's about power. The power to control someone's fate with a simple turn of a wrench, to toy with their trust and watch it unravel. I thrive on the chaos, the unpredictability, the delicious fear that seeps into the air like a thick fog. Months passed, and my reputation as a mechanic grew. People came from all over, drawn by my supposed expertise, unaware of the darkness that lay beneath. But one day, a man named Mark walked in, an older gentleman with a weathered face and sharp eyes. He approached with caution, as if sensing something was off. "Can you fix my brakes?" he asked, his voice steady. "Absolutely," I replied, masking my excitement. "I'll take good care of it." As I worked, I could feel his gaze on me, scrutinizing my every move. I decided to play it cool, but I could sense that he wasn't as easy to manipulate as the others. "Everything all right?" he asked, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "Of course. Just doing my thing," I replied, trying to sound casual. But as I loosened the brake lines, I could feel the tension in the air. He was watching me closely, and I could see the gears turning in his mind. "Listen, kid," he said suddenly. "I've been around the block a few times. You're not the first mechanic I've dealt with." I felt a pang of annoyance. "I assure you, I know what I'm doing." "Do you?" he challenged, his eyes narrowing. "You know, trust is hard to come by these days." That struck a nerve. I was used to people blindly trusting me, and I didn't like being called out. "Trust me, I'll take care of your car," I said, my voice steady. He studied me for a moment longer, then nodded, seemingly satisfied. I felt a rush of relief, but deep down, I knew I had to be careful. I finished up, sending him on his way with a smile. But as I watched him drive off, a seed of doubt was planted in my mind. What if he figured me out? I waited patiently, heart racing, until I heard the telltale screech of tires and the unmistakable sound of a crash. I rushed outside, my heart pounding. Mark's car had collided with a guardrail, and I could see him scrambling out, dazed but alive. "What happened?" he yelled, disbelief etched on his face. "Looks like your brakes failed," I said, feigning concern. "That's unfortunate." He glared at me, anger and confusion swirling in his eyes. "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" I smirked, enjoying the thrill of the moment. Let's just say I'm not known for my reliability. His expression turned cold, and I could see the realization dawn on him. "You're sick. You're playing a dangerous game." "Dangerous?" "No, it's art," I replied, my voice dripping with arrogance. "Every failure is a brushstroke, every crash a masterpiece." As the sirens wailed in the distance, I felt a rush of exhilaration. Mark was just another figure in my gallery of chaos, another reminder of the power I wielded. And as I watched him being attended to by the paramedics, a twisted satisfaction filled me. I had become the artist of breakdowns, the orchestrator of fear, and there was no turning back. With each passing day, I became more entrenched in my own darkness, the thrill of control consuming me. I thrived on the chaos, the fear, the power I held over these unsuspecting souls. But deep down, I knew that one day someone would catch on, someone would see through my facade, and when that day came, I'd be ready. Because in my world, breakdowns were not just mechanical failures. They were opportunities to create fear, to wield power, and to watch as trust shattered like glass. And I was the master of this twisted art form, waiting for my next canvas to arrive, ready to unleash chaos and revel in the beauty of destruction. So, if you ever find yourself stopping for a repair, it may be my shop that you're at. You may think you're just getting a simple repair, but in reality, you're stepping into a world of nightmares, a gallery of breakdowns where trust is broken and fear reigns supreme. In my hands, every car becomes a ticking time bomb, waiting for the right moment to explode, and every unsuspecting driver is just another brushstroke in my masterpiece of chaos. And I'll be waiting, eager for the next opportunity to create my art.